All right. Teddy Atlas puts his 2 cents into Errol Spence Jr.'s mental issues or potential mental issues after the car accident and wonders whether or not he will ever be the same. How predictable. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel, subscribers. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. Also, thank you so much to everybody that joined through the Patreon. If joined the Patreon, we're gonna really be upgrading the Patreon for 2020, so stay tuned. I think you guys are really gonna like the changes and the new projects and programs that we're gonna put on the Patreon. Also, thank you to everybody that comes by the live streams Monday through Friday and OG Boxing Talk on Sunday. Make sure you're there. We're going to be covering this Gervonta Davis fight card with John Pascal and Badu Jack. Uskadagi is fighting as well. And of course, Gervonta Davis and Yuriokas Gamboa. We're going to be chopping it up at Sunday morning, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time with myself, Blood Boxing, KQKC Boxing, Trap House Boxing, and my man, the boxing historian, Curtis Anderson. Let's get into this, man. Look, man, Teddy Atlas is a lot of things, okay? Let me get this up cup. Teddy, you're a lot of things. You're not a psychiatrist, man. Leave it alone. Okay? Leave it alone. This man just talking crazy. He says that he does not know whether or not Errol Spence Jr. will mentally recover from that car accident because he saw his life flash in front of his eyes, and when he saw his life flash in front of his eyes, it's reasonable to assume, will he ever be the same fighter again? And I'm thinking to myself, he saw his life flash in front of his eyes. That's a pretty phrase. That's a pretty phrase. That is what you call a it's a little trite, which means it's a little overused, kind of like phrases that I use all the time, like at the end of the day, right? Things like that people use all the time. And sometimes, man, they just use them in the wrong situation. But one of those he saw his life flash before his eyes. Firstly, I think he said he don't remember anything about the accident. So literally, he did not see his life flash behind his life flash before his eyes. He was in a car accident. He doesn't remember anything. Okay, but let's look at the idea that because Errol Spence Jr. was in a car accident that he could have died in, that somehow that's going to mean he doesn't want to take punches. He's not going to want to punch anybody, or he doesn't want to get into the ring and fight. That all of a sudden what is he going to be? Is he all of a sudden going to be afraid? He's going to turn afraid of guys. I think it would be reasonable to assume that anybody would be afraid of a car crash at 100 miles an hour, right? Or, in a more extreme version, if they somehow survived a plane crash, that they might actually, be like, wow, and have been frightened during the process, anxious after it, and go through different type of issues in their head about dealing with that accident. But I don't see how that would prevent somebody from going to work and doing their job. Why would you even put that out there? It seems to me as if people go from speculating about his injuries physically, and now that they can't make any arguments about the guy being healthy because there he is, right? Yeah, I know you remember a couple weeks ago where people were coming out saying, hey, I heard from an insider. Now, this might not have been Teddy Atlas, but hey, man, I'm grouping them all together. Said, hey, I heard from this secret source from Secret Squirrel told me that Errol Spence Jr. suffered injuries that were much more grave than were originally reported, and he may never come back for his career. Right? That was the first guy to let that out, was Rick Glazier. Remember that? The infamous Rick Glazier, who knows because he's got 10 friends on YouTube, he got 10 friends on Gmail that he can send a note out to and ask them if they bought a pay-per-view, that somehow he can miraculously extrapolate that to knowing how many pay-per-view buys Deontay Wilder did, right? This is the same guy that came out with the rumor that Errol Spence Jr. was never going to fight again. And I'm on my page saying, man, look, dude, I've talked to his people. I talked to his people 2 days after the accident. I got another guy that knew people that were at the hospital with him. They're saying, dude, that the dude is fine. Miracle, yes. Miracle, yes. In God's plan, yes. However you see it. He was in a horrific accident for the car. For him, he survived and was relatively unhurt. He's got some teeth he's got to get replaced. But does anybody eat their crow about that one? No. But what do you move on to? You move on to the speculating about psychological damage. Because he got in a car accident, he's not going to want to beat up anybody. But let's analyze that as well, or at least, give it a little thought. How many boxers are there that have been shot at? Been in situations where they were doing something in a neighborhood and something broke out where they could have died in that as well. I do believe that Terrence Crawford got a bullet grazed. Somebody shot at his car and the bullet went through the glass and it got deflected just enough where it only grazed his head, but pretty much he got shot in the head. If Terrence Crawford can get shot in the head, he must have had his life flash before his eyes as well. Like, my God, man, I could have died. Right? There was also a fighter named Vasily Jurov, who, we used to fight. He fought James Toney as one of these guys, man. It was a very, very good fighter. One of my favorite fights that I've ever seen. James Toney, Alexander, Vasily Jurov, the original Vasily, right? Before Vasily Lomachenko, there was Vasily Jurov. Vasily Jurov, his trainer used to sit him in an alley, used to sit him in a hallway and sick German Shepherds on him. And he had to fight a German Shepherd off, right? An attack dog that was trying to kill him. And he had to find a way to survive and keep that dog from killing him, to deal with his fear. Now, I would suspect that Vasily Jurov, who was getting attacked by a German Shepherd, which is a dog that has more than enough capability to kill a man, that he might have thought, hey, if I don't get out of this, oh my God, what can happen? If this dog gets me in my neck, it can be all over. His life could have flashed before his eyes. What did he do? He went on and had a boxing career and didn't seem at all like he was afraid of James Toney. Came forward, threw hands with him, and it was like, hey man, I fought German Shepherds. What am I going to be scared of you? Why would I be scared of you? There's a lot of kids that are excellent boxers because they get in fights and all kind of, they get in fights with their mother. They get in fights with their dad, with their father. They do these kind of crazy things happen to them in their childhood, and they overcome those issues and deal with it. And when they overcome that issue, they have those fears of what was going on in their childhood or in their house. And when they get into a boxing ring, beating you up doesn't seem like anything. Taking a punch from a guy with a glove on might seem like it's a walk in the park. All kind of boxers have gone through that type of stuff. Going through things, near-death experiences that basically make them feel like, man, if I can get through that, I can get through you. And I don't see why Errol Spence Jr., why it wouldn't be more likely that Errol Spence Jr. can walk out and say, man, I've got a purpose in life. I got a purpose in life. I could have died in that car crash, and anybody else more than likely could have. I could have put my seatbelt on, or I could have just been turned a different way. If I had let somebody else drive and gotten the accident, I could have been in the passenger seat. All kind of things. That is like a 1 in a million chance that I lived through that. Man, there's a reason why I'm here. Clearly, there is somebody, or there is a creator, or there is a greater purpose for what I'm doing in my life. hey, let me get to doing that, because if I don't, the next time, hey man, I might not survive. Maybe he could have that. Maybe he could have that mentality. Maybe that could get him to double down and more and dedicate himself even more to his training, to improving his skills, right? To embracing the lifestyle of the fighter lifestyle. Why? That seems to me to be just as likely, if not more likely, to be the outcome from that particular situation, right? Either that or Errol Spence Jr. why wouldn't he just retire? If he didn't feel like he could fight anymore, if he felt like that was going to take his mind off, why wouldn't he just leave? He's got more money than 99.9% of people in the world have. Very, very wealthy man. If you didn't notice, he crashed a Ferrari, which means he crashed something that we ain't got enough money to buy. So, and I'm quite sure, well, he was insured. I don't know if his insurance will cover that because of the way the accident took place. I don't know. But anyway, you get my point. There is more reason to believe that something like that could get, it's just as likely that something like that could get a fighter to have less fear in the ring, to have more purpose in their training, more purpose, and feel like they have something they ought to work for and a goal that they want to work for, because it was almost taken away from them. They almost took it away from themselves, versus being afraid and being tentative and slacking off in training and whatever else it is that Teddy Atlas might be implying. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the matter. You let me know in the comment section what you think about it, and I'll catch you on the next video.